Bueno, mi gente, y seguimos aquí en el Puerto Rico Comic Con hablando con artistas de cómics. Y en este caso no es uno local, pero es uno que me llamó mucho la atención porque es el escritor de cómics Dwonch. Dave, tell me about your experience here in Puerto Rico Comic Con. How's it going?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is probably my 8th year, not in a row, but I come back as often as I possibly can. Obviously, COVID kind of threw us all for a loop. It's my first time back since then, and I mean, it's always a great time.
Awesome. So, to our public, what are you like? What are the books you have here today?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I've got a book called Jenny Zero that's out from Dark Horse. 2 volumes of that. I've got the Spores trilogy. I've got 2 parts of that. My favorite books are Cyrus Perkins of the Haunted Taxicab and Vamplets, obviously, like all ages stuff. I kind of like run the gamut of what I do. There's like a lot of like G-rated stuff for the kids, and then like a lot of R-rated stuff for the adults. So
you go all around.
Place. Yeah, I go to all the parties. That sounds weird.
Yes,
yeah.
We'll edit that out.
Take that from the record.
Okay, so you were before we were recording, you were telling me about this book, and this is an awesome story that I need you to tell my audience.
So this is Cyrus Perkins. A few years ago, well, actually more like 10 years ago, because I'm almost 50 now, which is insane to say. But when I turned 40, like all of my warranties expired. Like I had heart surgery. It just everything was falling apart. I was like a Kia or something. The Kia of human beings. And like after my heart surgery, I got sick. I went home from work. I didn't know what was going on. I thought it was food poisoning, so I sat on it for like 6 days. And it turned out that like my gallbladder failed. Wow. But I'm a stubborn man, because you know what?
I can tell.
We're men. We're just it's in our blood to be stubborn. So I basically sat on it, had the worst pain of my life. And I called the doctor, and they were like, "Well, we're going to call you an ambulance." And I was like, "No, because I know what's going to happen. You're gonna stick me with a $30,000 bill for one ride." And they were like, "Oh, stubborn man." They're like, "Fine, call a taxi cab." And I was like, "Fine, I'll call a cab." So I call a cab. I crawl into it, and right before I pass out, I just say drive. And I wake up to the guy screaming at me, "Where are we going? Where are we going?" And I'm like, "Hospital." And then I was like, "You know what, dude? If I die in this cab, I swear to God, I'm going to haunt it." And he was like, "Oh, we don't want that," right? So I woke up out of the hospital, and I said, "Someone give me a laptop." And I wrote this book, Cyrus Perkins and the Haunted Taxicab, about this little boy, Mikey, that dies in the back of a taxi and winds up haunting the driver into solving his murder. So
awesome.
I just turn like lemons into lemonade, man, like always. I think that's like my thing. I'm always naturally upbeat. Even in the face of like death, I'm like, let's make a joke and then a comic book about it, you know? So yeah, it's been a wild ride. That, you know, since then, obviously, I've been working with Dark Horse, with Titan, with Scout, just putting out creator-owned books that I really feel the market desperately needs. Some original weird voices out there.
Do you have like a different set of artists that you always work with, or each book is different artists?
I do. Well, like for Jenny Zero, we have Magenta King, who my buddy Brockton and I, we were at Puerto Rico Comic Con in 2016. We locked ourselves out of our Airbnb on a beer run.
Oh my God.
We left our wives drunk in the apartment, and our phones and the key, and we couldn't get back in. And you know, you guys have those like storm walls. You can't do anything. So we were like, well, screw it. Let's just drink this beer out in the middle of the street. And Brockton and I came up with this idea about this drunk superhero. And while we're getting drunk, super meta, and we're throwing beer cans at each other, everyone's like, call the police on these guys. And we woke up in the morning, both of us asleep on the couch together. And I was like, what happened last night? He's like, we made a book last night. I was like, we made a book last night? And he was like, yeah, Jenny Zero, we're going to make this book. And I was like, okay, great. So then while we were here, I just started looking on Instagram, and I just typed in kaiju. And I'm like, wow, this guy's art just is perfect for it. We emailed him, well, we messaged him through Instagram. He said yes right away. And so Jenny Zero was born in Puerto Rico, and this is my first year back. So yeah, very near and dear to my heart. Again, we didn't make lemonade out of lemons. That we made a drunk book while drunk at that time. Everything, it comes full circle with us, right? But yeah, other than that, I mean, like Santiago is one of my favorite artists, and he worked on Mind Palace and the Spores trilogy with me, and we're working on a new project right now. And he lovingly was like, I don't want to work with anyone but you. And I'm like, let's keep going. So we're making another book right now. So yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about this one, because this is also an interesting story.
Oh yeah. So Mind Palace is a book about Brian Fuller, who is the creator of the Hannibal TV show and Pushing Daisies and Wonderfalls. Dead Like Me, all these genius series that get canceled after 2 or 3 seasons, right? And then like years later, everyone's like, that was the best show ever. Why did it get canceled? And I'm like, because no one was watching it when it was too smart for its time, and then the world catches up to Brian. So when I came up with the idea, the joke was, I'm going to make a story about Brian Fuller's subconscious, because it's just got to be full of all of the characters that he can't write anymore because they're owned by ABC, NBC, Showtime, whatever it may be. So he doesn't get to the luxury of going back to it. So I just figured, you know what, screw it, I'm going to do it for him. So I wrote a story about Brian Fuller's subconscious mind and how all of his unfulfilled creations are driving him crazy. And then Brian found it online and decided to write the foreword for me. And he's just like the most supportive guy. He understands that his fans are the most important thing. And honestly, that's why we do these shows, right? We do it to celebrate with the fans and to touch base and to see everyone once a year. Unfortunately, sometimes that leads to over-drinking, but sometimes that leads to over-drinking and making comic books. Exactly. So, perfect.
Yeah, you get something out of it. Yeah. So I love the fact that you take like your life stories, like stuff that happens, maybe negative stuff that happens in your life, and you turn it into comic book gold.
I try. I don't know if it's gold. I'll say it's like copper. It's like a real shiny penny, these comic books. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I started out as an artist and I wanted to draw Daredevil and Captain America, and I still want to write those characters just once, just to say I did it, but it's not like the thing that I want to do. I want to tell my stories, and, I've just been blessed with a really good community of artists that want to work with me and really great co-creators that are writers that want to work with me. I've worked in video games. I wrote a comic for the NFL. I wrote a comic for the UFC. I don't even know how to choke a person out. I none of that. But I was like, I guess I'll learn. And so I wrote all of this stuff. I just have fun with it. Video games. I've done a ton of stuff. It's weird.
So where can our followers look you up in the internet to follow and get your books?
FBI watch list, list number 3. No, I'm not on the FBI watch list. Strike that from the record as well. Top 10 worst comic creators on an FBI list. That's this guy. You can find me on all of the socials at Dave Dwonch, and you can find my website, hellbrain.com. And that's my studio that I work with all of these great people with.
Can they get their books through your website, or do I have to go live to it?
Totally. You can get my books through Amazon. You can get my books through my website. However you see fit. I always say go to your local comic shop and request them, because chances are they don't know who a schmuck like they don't know me, right? Yeah. But if you want to boost the signal for any creators that you like, you order it through your comic shop. Maybe they'll order one for the shelf too.
Right.
So always support your local comic shops and your local creators, for sure.
Well, this has been great. I love talking to you. This is like really fun stories, and everybody check this out. This is great material. Awesome. So, hope you sell a lot, and we'll see you next year.
I sold out years ago.
All right, mi gente, seguimos.